I did not go to my mother's funeral. I was in a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of a downtown office building, shaking hands with people who had no idea, while my family buried her without me. And here's the part that keeps me up at night, I knew. I chose. So go ahead and tell me I'm the worst person alive. I've already heard it. The question is whether you'd have done the same thing. Okay, here's who we're dealing with. My name's Dana. My mom was Renee. She was 61, and she had a heart condition we all knew about, had known about for 3 years. It wasn't a secret, it wasn't a sudden diagnosis. It was a ticking clock that she absolutely refused to let any of us manage for her. She was stubborn in the way only mothers can be, the kind of stubborn where she'd forget her own medication just to prove she didn't need reminding. My brother Eli lived 15 minutes from her. He saw her twice a week, minimum. I lived 4 hours away, came back every couple of months, called every Sunday. We weren't estranged. We were just living two different lives in two different cities. The job thing, I have to explain the job thing or none of this makes sense. I had been unemployed for 11 months. 11. I'd burned through my savings, I was 6 weeks from not being able to cover rent, and I'd sent out somewhere north of 200 applications. This particular interview, senior coordinator role at a nonprofit I actually believed in, had taken 3 rounds to get to. When they finally called me in for the final in person, it was a Tuesday. My mom's service was also a Tuesday, same morning, same exact time, 4 hours apart. Mom passed on a Saturday. We knew it was coming. She'd been in the hospital since Thursday, and by Friday night, the doctors were gentle in a way that meant stop hoping. She passed at 4 a.m. Saturday with Eli there. I wasn't there for that either, and I have to live with that, and I do. The funeral was scheduled fast. Our family does that. It's a religious thing, you don't wait. By Sunday afternoon, we knew it was Tuesday at 10. I stared at my phone for maybe an hour. The interview was Tuesday at 11, 4 hours away. There was no version of this where I made both, not even close. I called Eli, I told him what was happening. There was this long, awful silence, and then he said, Dana, it's Mom's funeral. And I said, I know, Eli, I know, but I need this job. And he said, and I quote, there will be other jobs. Which I get it, I understand why he said that, but I had been hearing there will be other jobs for 11 months while my bank account bled out and my anxiety got so bad I wasn't sleeping. Easy to say when you have a stable income and a house and a wife. I called my Aunt Britta next. She cried. She didn't argue, she just cried, and somehow that was worse. My cousin Marcus texted me 3 times in 1 hour. The last message said, are you seriously doing this? Not a question, a statement. I asked the funeral home if we could push the service by even 2 hours. They couldn't. I asked Eli if we could do a small private graveside thing later that I could attend. He said the arrangements were made, the extended family was flying in, it wasn't something he could just restructure because of my schedule. Which fair, that was fair. So I went to the interview. I drove 4 hours, I sat in that conference room, I answered every question, I smiled, I was present. And my family stood around a grave without me. I got the job, I found out 2 days later. I told Eli first because I don't know what I thought, that it would explain something maybe, that it would close a loop. He didn't say congratulations, he said, I hope it was worth it. And then he didn't call me for 3 weeks. At the reception after the service, which I also missed, apparently my Aunt Britta told people I had a prior commitment. She was trying to protect me. It came out anyway. My cousin Marcus posted something on his page, not naming me directly, but everyone knew. Something about how grief reveals who people really are. It got 37 likes from family members. Here's where I have to be honest about the thing I actually did that I can't fully defend. A few days after the funeral, my grandmother, my mom's mom, who is 83 and adored my mother, called me. She didn't yell. She just asked me very quietly, why weren't you there? And I told her the truth, all of it. The months of unemployment, the rent, the interview, the timing, and she listened. And then she said, your mother would have told you to go to that interview. And I started crying and I said, I know she would have. And my grandmother said, that doesn't mean you should have listened to her. I've turned that sentence over in my head every day since. Because here's the part I keep circling back to. I made a unilateral decision about my own grief and my own financial survival without really asking my family to help me think it through. I didn't say I might lose my apartment. I didn't ask Eli if he could loan me rent money so I could reschedule. I didn't even ask if the nonprofit could push the interview. I was too scared to ask, too scared they'd pull the offer, so I just didn't. I made the call and then told everyone after. Maybe there was another path I didn't take, because taking it felt like admitting how bad things had gotten. I don't know. What I do know is that my brother still sounds different on the phone. Not cold, just careful, like he's measuring every word. A few weeks later, I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment, the one I could finally afford, and I found a birthday card my mom had mailed me 4 months before she died, her handwriting on the envelope. I sat on the floor for a long time. I have a job now, I have an apartment, I did not say goodbye. So, am I the problem here? Was keeping my life together worth missing her last goodbye? Or was there a version of me that should have walked away from that conference room and figured out the money later? I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is. I genuinely don't know. I know what I chose and I know what it cost. Some people will read this and think survival isn't a sin. Some people will read this and think no job is worth that room, that Tuesday, that moment I can never get back. Both of those people might be right. Honestly, though, what would you have done? Comment below.